Welcome to this week's episode of Drive the Bid, the automotive podcast brought to you by AutoHunter.com, your destination for online collector car auctions. Hosted by Diego Rosenberg and Derek Shiekhi. Drive the Bid starts now.
Howdy, everyone. Welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about today, as usual. So we're going to start off with some industry news, show you what's going on out there. Diego's going to give us some insight to some Lamborghini sales figures. And then I'm going to cover some news regarding the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. And then after that, Diego's going to share some of his driving experiences from Colombia recently. And then we'll get into our main topic, which is the things we've learned by attending the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale Auction. And after that, of course, we'll go over the interesting cars that are on AutoHunter.com right now. Before we get into it, we can officially start.
You got some satisfaction from that?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. So is this is you or me?
No, this is you.
This is me. Okay. So Lamborghini has broken the 10,000 unit barrier for 2023. This story is from Car and Driver. I have no idea whether this is 2023 calendar year or model year. So let's assume calendar year for now. Lamborghini built 10,112 vehicles. 3,000 of them were sold in the United States, 3,000 on the dot, and 357 were sold in Canada.
That's it?
Yes.
Man, okay.
Canada's always been like that.
Yeah.
When for statistics I've seen, even regular cars. Germany was number 2 at 961. Interestingly enough, China is number 3 at 845. The United Kingdom was next at 801. Believe it or not, Italy, Lamborghini's home country, is number 8 in sales at 409. And one of the reasons for that are the taxes that Italy has. So of those 10,112 cars, 6,087 were the Urus. Is that how you pronounce it? This SUV vehicle right here.
No surprise, yeah.
Then the Huracan was 3,962. The Aventador is 63. And the reason why it's so low is because they canceled the model. But if you recall, there was a ship fire and destroyed a bunch of them, so they built a few more to make up for that. And then there was the Countach. I believe they said they sold, I think 112 were built, but I don't know how many of those were sold or let's say built in 2023, but some of them just to finish up production.
Oh, okay. I can imagine with that. I mean, everyone they built, they probably sold.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with 100. I mean, there's going to be 112 really rich people who are interested in that. That's a gimme for the most part.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's kind of interesting because I remember I had this magazine from years. It's from the 80s, and it took maybe up to 1982 for Aston Martin to sell 10,000 cars. So maybe 70 years, maybe a little bit more. It took them that long to sell 10,000 cars. And now some of these exotic brands are selling 10,000 in a year. I know, I think in the Car and Driver article, they mentioned Aston Martin sold 6,000 this past year. So 6,000 in 1 year versus 10,000 in 70 years. It's kind of interesting. It's a different company now, of course. And if I got the production number wrong, maybe it was 3,000. I don't know, but you get the idea.
As far as Aston Martin?
Yeah.
I think when we were talking about this before, yeah, I think it was like 6,000 something.
Yeah.
Which is still kind of surprising.
It's substantial for an exotic. I mean, you look at a lot of the old Ferraris, and they made a lot of them in the double digits. I think the Daytona was something a little bit more substantial, maybe 1,200 over a few years.
Well, and then you had so many of the Ferraris in the 70s where they didn't even sell them in the States, which, would have been a big market, but,
Yeah, and you look at the 308 and they sold several thousand of those in different variations. So, that's there's a little bit of an uptick, but you used to see those all the time. Let's say if you go to LA or something like that. Now you don't see them at all, except at a car show.
The 308s?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been long enough, and I can't imagine what the running costs are on those.
Yeah.
But if you're going to see them, it's going to be there.
Right. So, Lamborghini now is no longer a boutique exotic.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's, I mean, to be honest, it's been a few years since that. But, it's not far behind from Ferrari's production. I think they said Ferrari's production was 14,000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's, I mean, depending on who you talk to, I guess you can view it as a sort of necessary evil, because a lot of people, they lament the fact that these high-performance exotic car companies make SUVs, and, production has to go up because, to remain financially viable, satisfy the shareholders and things like that. And a way of meeting those output goals is by producing SUVs because they sell.
Well, not only that, it's the SUV is the way for the exotic cars to survive. I mean, if you want to have a Lamborghini sports car, the SUV is a necessary evil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know that from Porsche.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it's not really exotic, and Porsche is able to share platforms with Volkswagen, and I guess some of that is involved with this too. Is I can't even remember. Does Volkswagen own Lamborghini now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking because I want to say a few years ago they offloaded Ducati, and then Rimac got Bugatti. But yeah, they're still Volkswagen owned, and that's one of those things. Like I kind of liken it to like high end watches. It's like, okay, it seems like most people in the high end watch world, they want everything vertically integrated. They want an in-house made movement, all that kind of stuff. And I would imagine there's some people out there that are like, oh, well, Bugatti or Lamborghini is German owned. They're owned by Volkswagen. It's not Italian. It's this big conglomerate, but
it's Italian. I mean, that's like saying a Toyota made in America is an American car, and it's like, no, everything about it culturally comes from Japanese thinking. It could be built anywhere, but the engineering is still Japanese.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
And sure, maybe they have an engineering arm in the United States, but it's still a Japanese car every which way.
Yeah. Well, I guess my ultimate point was that, that's another one of those things where there are just certain things that have to be done in order for these cars to be produced.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. Let's see. So, speaking of production, there is, last I checked, it hasn't been confirmed by Stellantis or Jeep, but online, there's this Jeep enthusiast forum called JL Wranglers, and they came across, I guess, like an email that went out to dealers, and there's a dealer sales contest where if they hit certain sales goals for particular models that they're assigned, and it's based on region, if they sell more of the model they're assigned than they did last year, and this is the top 50 Jeep dealers, they get an allotment for their dealership of one of the, looks to be pending, Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 final editions. So again, not confirmed last I checked, but it makes sense because they did Stellantis did the last call models for Dodge. They had the final edition Ram 1500 T-Rex, which, of course, being a final edition and already being an expensive high-performance vehicle, the final edition of the Ram T-Rex went for a starting price of basically $120,000. So that if they do indeed make a final edition Rubicon 392, which I pretty much guarantee you they will. It's going to be come at an even higher price than the regular one. And I swear when these came out a few years ago, I think they started at like 75, and now base price on them is like 92. Now, of course, for that you get, it is the only factory made V8 powered Wrangler. Now, of course, the CJs back in the day, they had, I guess the biggest, maybe the only V8 they had was the 304 AMC V8. So nothing as big as this. 470 horsepower, and then you get standard 35s, you get Napa leather seating, and this is like other Wranglers recently, it's really showing you how they've pushed them even more upscale, not just in terms of price, but like now the new Wranglers, you can get like power adjustable seats, Napa leather, they've really luxed them up.
Doesn't seem like a Jeep in some ways.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when I was looking into this online, people were just balking at the price because, by the time you get out the door and tax, title, and license, even for the regular Rubicon 392, it's pushing $100,000 for what is essentially, even though it's a very special Wrangler, a Wrangler. So yeah, I imagine there's going to be a premium attached to the final edition. And that's one of those things, like, it's going to sell no matter what, because it's not just, a 6.4 powered factory made Wrangler on 35s, but, it's the end of an era, and it's, they're, I'm sure, going to limit the production. That Ram T-Rex, I think it was 4,000 worldwide. So every single one of these they make, they're going to sell.
I bet Consumer Reports is going to love that Jeep.
Well, I'd have to see that. Yeah. I'd be curious to know. Yeah, especially the fuel economy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. So as I said before, Diego's going to share some of his experiences from driving in Colombia.
Yeah. So my wife is from Colombia. So we went from Armenia to a place called Lago Calima, which is Lake Calima. And I got to drive through the city of Armenia, through the 2-lane highways, and then the bigger highways. Let's say 2-lane country roads into the 2-lane highways. Now, let's say 1 lane in one direction, 1 lane in another direction. Is that 2-lane or one what lane? What is that called? Is it collectively?
I guess a 2-lane,
okay.
Yeah.
So then I guess the local highway would be a 4-lane highway. So one thing I learned is don't keep a lot of space between you and the car in front, because that's going to give some impatient person who's usually a jackass with a premium car there, and premium may mean, like, let's say a low-line Mercedes, like a C-Class. If there is space there and someone thinks I'm going too slow, they're going to pass on the double yellow line and get in that spot.
You sure you were in Colombia and not Phoenix?
Yes.
Okay, just
Phoenix
checking.
is not so bad compared with other parts of the country I've lived in, especially Los Angeles. But I learned not to keep so much space, because that was asking people to illegally pass me and slot in there. I even had a bus. I'm going to say the bus is about 25 feet long, not a very big bus. Try to pass me in the double yellow line.
Wow.
And guess what? After the toll booth, I passed the bus. It's like, it's not going anywhere. But there's this thing where people think, hey, I need to get in front of the guy who's going a little bit too slow for my taste. Now, keep in mind, too slow is going the speed limit.
Yeah.
So there's that. I witnessed a bus, and this is one of the bigger buses, more of a coach, pass bicyclists around a bend and cross the yellow line a little bit while I'm headed towards that direction in that bend. So it's like you're heading across this, you're just going in the lane, approaching a bend, and all of a sudden, vroom, this bus in the opposite direction.
Now, in their
crossing the
defense,
yellow. Yeah.
maybe they had a passenger on board that needed to deliver a transplant organ to a hospital. They better have.
Unlikely. So yeah, it was kind of harrowing because I would say my natural reaction is to maintain my stance and try to. I'm thinking of a word that I can't think of right now, but it's like if I maintain my position, it's going to hopefully not have people take advantage of my position, but that's not quite the case in Colombia. In the United States, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Even certain parts of here, there's a lot of very aggressive drivers.
Sure, and it's like it's not like I haven't seen people cross the double yellow line in the United States before, but I have absolutely no respect for that kind of driving. And Colombia is just something that some people do. Mm-hmm. It's to be expected.
It's a little faster and looser over there.
Yeah. And, are there cops to give people tickets for that? I don't know. I can tell you that cops are along the route and they look at your car and look at you. And if they want, they will pull you over. And it's not because you've done anything wrong. They're going to inspect your car to see if it's up to date with the registration, if your fire extinguisher is up to date and not expired. That happened to us once when we were there.
Those are required over there. The fire extinguisher.
Yes, they are.
Interesting.
They are. And I think that's a good rule. The thing is that, from my American sensibilities, I can't be pulled over by a cop unless they are given a good reason. Let's say like a moving violation.
Or your taillight's out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There, no.
Yeah, it can be something they don't even have to see from the outside.
Exactly. I mean, in the end, it could be random. I have no idea why we got stopped for a moment. It has happened before with my wife in a previous visit, and they made a fuss with her because she gave them her American license, and I guess you need to do something with the locality or the state or the country to show that, hey, you're a visitor driving in a foreign country. It's like they hassled her for a while, and it's just one of those things that maybe they're looking for a payout.
Oh yeah, maybe. I mean, is there a permit you get down there, or I mean, I imagine if you're just visiting, you don't have to get a visa.
Well, I mean, there's the issue of visas dependent on the country. It's dependent on the relationship with the United States. So that's one thing. But driving privileges, you can't just go there and be like, hey, I'm in your country and here's my American license.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, no, I mean, your wife is from there, so I imagine she still has her citizenship.
She has her citizenship, but she doesn't have a Colombian license.
Yeah, but I mean, there's not like a way to get like when you land there, like, oh, hey, I need like a temporary permit to drive here.
Well, I think that's what the policeman was saying. That was a few years ago, and they hassled her, and eventually we just got off, and that was it. But she got a stern lecture.
Yeah,
but some are more corrupt than others, and I think in the United States, the police here are you can't pay off cops here for the most part.
Yeah, believe me, I've tried.
In other countries, it's different.
Yeah, there's a different way of operating.
So I learned how to drive in Colombia a little bit better. I remember one time when we got back to the city, there was some kind of merge, not because by design, but let's say there were some trucks, some construction on the right side, so I had to merge left. So I had my turn signal, and that didn't stop some guy to just like passing me on the left and preventing me from merging.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. And of course, me honking is kind of frowned upon because it's like it means nothing. And also, let's say in a previous time, and it's still now, they don't really have any narco issues, but you honk at the wrong person, you can have trouble. Especially a motorcyclist or a scooter rider. Because that's how those I forget what the people who assassinate are called. There's a certain name I can't remember offhand, but they would be riding on two wheels.
Oh, okay.
Because it's the easiest way to get away.
Yeah, you can just zip off.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you're here. You survived.
Yeah, I honked and I survived.
you live to drive another day.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you learned a lot there, and you've also learned a lot, just like me, by going to the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale auction.
Yeah.
There's a lot of takeaways. I was at the show a couple years ago working the AutoHunter booth, of course. And then last year, I took my wife to the show. It was the first time she'd ever been there. And the two main takeaways that I came away with were, you look at, obviously at Barrett Scottsdale, there are a lot of, factory original and correct cars, right? Cars that are like survivors or they've been restored, things like that. And then there's late model stuff. But then, what really stuck out to me, and this has to do with my wife as well, is that you look at certain vehicles like the Max Leiter Brothers Broncos, and then some of these redone earlier Corvettes, is that there is they can lead an entirely new second life as a new vehicle, because obviously there's the secondary market for the restored ones or the original, but then you have cars like this Vet right here where they get, a completely new chassis. They get like an LS3 fuel injection. They get a modern transmission, completely modernized suspension, wheels and tires, all of that. And, it's a sort of, I guess a sort of cottage or boutique industry of companies that do these. I guess the term for it is like pro touring style. You have the vintage looks, but you have modern amenities and safety features and advancements. And so this is one of the cars that's actually on the docket for Barrett Scottsdale this year. Nice paint, of course, the contrasting coves on the side. I love that. And then this is they call it Skyfall. And I think the coves are silver mist. Similar concept, they redo the interior, leather seats, new chassis, all that kind of stuff. And then the other thing that struck me about the show, especially last year's, is not everyone is a car person. And my wife is, that applies to my wife. My wife is not, a gearhead or a car person. But I do believe, and I learned this last year, that even those people, every one of them has at least one car that they like or they're interested in. And,
usually because of the color.
The color's a big one. Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us back to this first one. So when we went last year, we were walking around in the Max Leiter Brothers Broncos. My wife really dug those. She likes the kind of resto modded like vintage SUVs, the Broncos in particular, their output. And then she saw, not this one, I don't think it was this one, but she saw an earlier Vet in a similar color, and it had the redone interior, and it was like a cream colored interior. And that really stuck out to her. So that taught me something about her. That taught me something about just people's relationships with cars in general. And then that really showed me, something about the show. Like, oh, it's a learning experience, like it heightened the experience of going to that show because we, deepened our bond in that way, because I'm always talking about cars and, my wife can take so much of that, but then like we had this commonality being there, because she had her favorites.
And were there any favorites of hers that were the favorites of yours?
I liked both of them. I liked these earlier Vets. I liked the vintage Broncos. And especially like, I think there's a balance. Like, I understand kind of luxing them up a little bit, especially like if you're, modernizing them in a way that is not overly conspicuous. I like that. And, some interior upgrades are cool. So, Yeah, I mean, I like those, but then, there's always like some obscure car, or, some other car I'll mention that I gravitate toward that she doesn't quite get the appeal of. But that's the thing. I mean, I know it sounds kind of hackneyed, but I mean, there really is something for everyone there, because you could see these really high dollar builds like these and the Max Leiter Brothers Broncos. But then you go out into the tints and you see the, more budget friendly vehicles. Like they had like a early 2000s Jag XJ, which I've always loved those. And I mean, there's for, in terms of your interests as far as a manufacturer, the nationality of the car, the year range of the car, or even, the body styles. I mean, there's just something for everyone there.
So for me, my first Barrett-Jackson, I don't remember when that was. I can tell you my parents moved to Arizona around 2000 or so. So I had some chances to come to Barrett-Jackson pretty easily because I didn't have to get a hotel or anything like that. Did I come every year when they lived here? No. I can't tell you what was the first year. I mean, definitely, let's say between 2000 and 2010. Some of the things I learned are you can't really believe what the description says about the car. You have to do your due diligence and understand things about the car, because sometimes people are mistaken, sometimes people lie, and sometimes, it's I believe legally Barrett-Jackson isn't responsible for what the owner claims about the car, so it's caveat emptor. That's one thing. Another thing is that what you see on TV, the camera can hide a lot. So you can see this car and go for like this record-setting price, and then you see people complaining online like that car's not even numbers matching. There's a lot of things that are behind the camera that you can't really see in person. So you can't really judge a car based on what you see on TV. You can't think it's like restored to the nth degree just because it achieved a record price or something like that. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of cars that maybe behind the camera, let's say from a photograph point of view versus the video side, looks great, but upon inspection, when you see it in person, may not be as nice as what you think. I remember one time, gosh, this is over 10 years ago, there was a 429 Cobra Jet Mustang 71 Mach 1. And my friend pointed out to me the rear spoiler was on backwards. And I wouldn't have known that because I'm not so familiar with the cars other than like the basics. But he knew that, and he was able to see that it was restored incorrectly like that. So I have no idea what kind of money that car brought. But to a discerning Mustang person, they may have issues with it, or also maybe they think, oh, okay, it's got this spoiler issue, it's got this other issue, this will be my maximum. Of course, there are some people who are less educated and may overspend on a car, and that's something that happens at auctions as well. And also, sometimes you talk with strangers at Barrett-Jackson, and they got a lot of booze in their breath.
Yeah, it's a lively place. And, I was thinking about that, like, I've never, bid on a car at an in-person auction, but I have online in a sense. So, golly, years ago, I wanted this Pontiac GTO model car, this 1/18 scale. And I got into this bidding war with somebody on there, went back and forth, and I ended up paying too much for it online. And I think that might be a difference between maybe online and in person, where online you don't see the other person, you're at your computer, it's very sterile, it's isolated. So there was no joy in that, especially overpaying. But I would think, to a certain extent, like in-person auctions, there's the atmosphere, there's the excitement, there's a sense of frivolity and, maybe friendly one-upsmanship in terms of the bidding. So I would think, there are some people that even if they overbid on a car, they enjoyed the experience of doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
But online, at least in my experience and that very limited capacity, Yeah, I wasn't drinking. I was just, just paid too much for a GTO.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There was something else I remember that popped in my head when you were talking, and now I can't really remember. But oh yeah, yeah. At Westworld, there's a large indoor area where, let's say, the top cars are, but there's also a lot of good cars. Not to say that they're not top cars, but there's a lot of good cars. There's not enough room for the indoor. So there's tents on the outside, several of them, maybe 10 of them, and they're very long. And if you spend your time there, you can find a lot of cars that may not be given top billing or a lot of glory in social media and other marketing aspects of Barrett-Jackson. It's always worth checking out to see what else is there. Maybe it's a diamond in the rough. I don't mean in the sense of condition, but maybe something that's just not getting the glory it deserves and therefore is under the radar, and maybe an opportunity to get a good deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
If not just an opportunity to get something that wasn't on your radar. Something great.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cars. And like you said, they can't all fit indoors. There's so many cars out there. And I mean, you can turn around and spot like 5 or 6, like, oh man, I want to go check that out. And then along the way, you can stop at one of the food trucks, get something to eat.
Yeah, sure. I remember last year they had I think it was a 64 Buick Wildcat with a 425 4-speed. And that's not like a major collectible compared with, let's say, a Hemi. But for a lot of Buick guys, it's a holy grail car. And it didn't get a lot of attention except for people discussing it online. And I think it went on the block, and maybe it was $30,000 to $35,000, which I thought was probably fair for what it was. Things like that, or even forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it, like a Panhard, some funky French car. I remember they had one a few years ago, and it's just like you wouldn't really notice it because it was not given any attention in the marketing. And but you won't know that it's here until you look at the roster online, or preferably just walking down the tents.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale show. I mean, there's others Barrett shows, but Barrett-Jackson is such a household name in this space. It's so well known. But they have, the kind of blue chip cars, but then they have the cars where you do have to know about those. Like you have to know this certain, this certain niche to make an educated bid on it. But you have the mainstream stuff, and then you have the stuff that gets the more eclectic buyers, that want like an old French car or something like that.
Yeah. Now, this car, this is an Olds 442 1970 that was used in the movie Demolition Man.
Oh, okay.
It's posed as a W30. I don't know if it's a real W30. I haven't seen any paperwork one way or another. So I'm assuming when we go in person, there will be more documentation, let's say provenance, as they like to say, on what exactly is this vehicle. But in some ways, it probably doesn't make a difference because it's a movie vehicle.
So technically, this is a demo car?
Because of
I had to do it.
You go to the next picture, please. So, nice looking car, though. And then this one is another cool car that's going to be, I bet this car's indoor as well.
Diego,
yeah.
Can you make the announcement of its arrival? Like, can you...
In what way?
Tell everybody
what it is.
What's coming?
You mean like this is a 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge in mint turquoise with a red interior, which was not a recommended color combination, but as you can see, it works pretty well because the stripes are orange, blue, and pink. So the red and the orange kind of match nicely together against the turquoise. And besides, Richard Petty has turquoise and orange, and no one complains about it not matching. So, so this one's an interesting car.
Well, I like the breakdown you gave, but I have to admit I was shamelessly trying to bait you into saying, "Here comes the judge."
Oh no, I would never do that.
Oh, nuts!
But it didn't occur to me what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I dropped the ball on that. Oh, wow. Wow, man. Yeah. That is red.
And this car is a Canadian car, so it's got GM of Canada documentation. But I mean,
Oh, okay.
but even if it wasn't a Canadian, you can get the Pontiac Historical Services. Actually, I think it's technically called PHS Services now. You can get the original invoice, so there won't be whatever country this car was sold in. There's no doubt what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it being a Canadian market car, in a way, it has, it's not the production number, but it is rarer than, an American market judge.
Well, let's say there were fewer of them sold, but there's nothing about it being sold in Canada that makes it rarer. It's like in the end, let's say they sold, I think maybe it's 288 judges, or maybe 288 judges were built in Oshawa. That doesn't make the car any rarer. In the end, it's still a GTO judge, and what's most important is the engine and the color and the equipment. That's really what sets a judge apart from other judges.
True, yeah, but I just meant in like in the sense of like if somebody wanted to, they could say, well, this is one of however many sold in the Canadian market.
I would say those people are lame. I mean, it's like, look, is it a nice little trivia thing? Yeah. Is it something to try to hype the car on, saying it's rare? I'm a little bit suspicious about that kind of stuff. It doesn't work for me, but maybe it works for people, and that's why they do it.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a trivia thing, and I can imagine there's some people out there that are like, oh yeah, well, it's a smaller number, but yeah, like you said, I mean, the main differentiator is the equipment and all that kind of stuff.
The only, Canadian market car, maybe this has a heavy duty battery, something like that. Maybe engine block heater.
Oh yeah, I would hope so.
But otherwise, it's there's not really anything different.
Yeah, it's an interesting color combination.
And mint turquoise is also the rarest color for GTOs that year.
Oh, okay.
There's actually one rarer color, and that's Orbit Orange, but that was only available on a judge. But let's say if this color was available on regular GTOs and judges, so presumably it's a rarer color on judges than Orbit Orange.
So, I mean, it seems to me like a lot of the judges I've seen online, and granted, some of these might be tributes, but it seems like a lot of them are in orange. Now, were there two different shades of orange that they offered?
Well, no, it's just that Orbit Orange was a judge only color.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's a popular color among judges. It's still among all GTOs, it's the rarest color because it was only available on judges.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. So as a whole,
yes,
yeah. Okay. That explains it.
But, why was this one rare? Because, to my eyes, it looks like a very nice color, but my eyes are contemporary to today, and I don't know what 1970 eyes look like. It's like maybe this was not a color that was considered high performance.
Yeah, I figured it has something to do with that, yeah.
I don't know, but like white's not a very high performance color, and that was a popular color for judges. Black is a popular high performance color today, but back then it was not. It was a formal color.
Yeah. I
think of like an old Cadillac.
Yeah, I get that. I mean...
it's like, I would say black is number 2 after red today for a sports car, but back then black was not a sports car color.
Yeah, it's like a hearse or a funeral limo or limousine car color.
That being said, there's a black judge also, and black judges are very nice.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Is that the next slide? No. Okay.
No.
Yeah, there's a black judge. It's very nice.
Oh, okay. That's on the docket this year.
Yeah, it may be from the same seller. I'm not really sure. But the person that has this judge has a collection he's selling. Black judges are nice. The stripes pop out. The black judges got blue, red, yellow stripes, I think, but it looks very nice. I'm not a black car guy, but black judges are near. I would say this color, Orbit Orange, and black are my 3 favorite colors for judges in 1970.
Oh, okay.
That's me.
Well, I know something else that's up your alley, which is your first AutoHunter pick.
Sure. Okay, this 1971 Barracuda. I guess this would be considered a pro touring car. The auction ends on Monday, the 22nd of January. It has a 426 Hemi installed in it. It is a Barracuda, like the prefix in the VIN is BH. This is originally a 318 car. You can see they added the gills on the side like a CUDA. It's got a 70s style hockey stick stripe, and it's got these strobe stripes on the hood, which they just developed themselves. It does not have the scooped hood that you'd find in a CUDA. It has the flat hood. But otherwise, it's a 426 Hemi Pro Touring Barracuda in the 1971 model year style that everyone likes.
Yeah, a lot of custom stuff done on it. I mean, you could eat off of that.
Sure, I wouldn't want to, but yeah.
Well, it would slide off,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you could get to it in time, yeah. Wow.
Maybe it works as a griddle. I'll have some pancakes.
Yeah, you do that right there.
Yeah. So this expires on the 22nd next Monday.
So plenty of time to get your bids in.
And it has a late model GTO. Can you say, is it 2004 GTO late model? I don't know I don't know what year GTO interior it is, but around there. But I'm going to call it a late model GTO interior leather. You can see the door panels are the stock design, but they have been updated to match the rest of the interior. They redid the dashboard, so it's got torque flight. Someone out there, like they say, there's an ass for every seat. This will work for somebody.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's very modified, but I think they went far enough to differentiate it and make it stand out. And I'm usually into more stock looks, but this, I think they really towed that line. Like they went far enough, but I don't think they went overboard.
I think it's interesting that, yeah, I agree. I mean, like to me, the wheels are overboard. But it's interesting they went with the 70 stripe instead of, let's say, the billboards from 71.
Oh, yeah.
That's, I think, a little bit more popular. A lot of people like that because they're in your face. The color is a little bit curious. It's a nice color, but, green is kind of love or hate for a lot of people. And this looks like what was F3, GF3. I don't remember the name of the color, but that is the code for the light green in 1971. So, it may have more mass appeal in another color. I don't know. Everyone likes purple.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, again, this stands out, and it's got a, pardon me, it's refreshing. There's a cleanness to this shade of green.
They got rid of the door handles, and as long as you don't mind having something in your pocket and to press the button, or maybe there's a hidden button somewhere, I don't know. But this is a typical pro touring car otherwise.
I think that's the next stage of evolution for door poppers is you have it on your phone to where you go up and maybe you put your hand in a certain area and then it'll read the code on your phone and pop it.
Yeah, or like maybe there's some sensor underneath, like you put your foot, like they have for some rear hatches.
Yes, yeah. Well, speaking of evolution, those could use some work too.
Yeah.
So many times I tried to use them when I was reviewing press cars, and I must have looked like a lunatic out in the parking lot just waving my foot.
There's probably someone out there suing the auto companies because he's an amputee.
Oh, I did not think about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Now, what I did think about is this 78 Dodge W150 Power Wagon. So great, classic butch looks from the start. It definitely has that vintage appeal, but this is the best of both worlds in the sense that this has had a lot of updates done to it. So it's been repainted, and it's got a lot of functional updates as well. So for instance, get my notes here. So according to the seller, this only has 69,000 miles on it. It's got a 400 under the hood. That's paired with a rebuilt TorqueFlite 3-speed auto. Carburetor's rebuilt as well. And being a Power Wagon and W150, it's 4-wheel drive. And then you've got luxuries like AC, power steering, power front disc brakes. And the exhaust, Flowmaster exhaust is new. They said they rebuilt the brakes, and then they also made some updates to the suspension and the fuel and braking system. So it's got new shocks, new fuel pump.
So here's a question. What makes, to me, it's just a pickup truck. So what makes this pickup a power wagon versus a regular pickup?
Let's see. It's a good question. I remember going through the brochure. Well, 4-wheel drive, I think, is one of the big ones.
Is that it? If you got 4-wheel drive for a pickup, it became a power wagon, maybe?
No, I think they had 4-wheel drive for the other ones. But I'd have to go back and look to see what the key differentiators were. But yeah, it's I think there might be some people out there that kind of forget about these kind of in between power wagons, because you had like the old ones, like the 1940s
ones looking. Yeah. They made like into the 60s, I think.
Maybe, yeah. And then of course Dodge and then Ram, they brought them back. I think the sort of reincarnated power wagon was, maybe they made those in like the mid to late 2000s. And then, of course, they've kept producing them. But, yeah, I know when I learned about these, I realized, oh, well, Power Wagon has a longer history than I thought. And, yeah, this has got some a sort of new lease on life, a lot of new parts, new paint. So
the wheel covers look kind of funny on this. I mean, it's not like they're wire wheel covers, but it looks a little bit like... it doesn't impart a power wagon persona. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's like it's a little, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. You got the power wagon thing, which sounds kind of tough, and you have like these luxurious looking wheel covers.
To me, there's a certain simplicity to them, even though they got the pockets in them. They kind of fit it to me. But at the same time, I can see where they might look a little ornate, which would kind of clash. I get where you're coming from, but I don't know. To me, they work.
And when I say that clashes, it's like not, I say clash with a lowercase c.
Not B clash.
Like I don't think it takes away from the vehicle. Mm-hmm. I think it's an interesting touch. Now, a 150, is that a half ton?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So that's a step up from, let's say, the base one. Which would be a quarter ton. I'm not so tuned in on pickup trucks. I find it a little bit difficult to keep track of how they did the naming and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think the W was for the 4-wheel drives, and then I want to say the D was for the 2-wheel drive, kind of like the Chevy CK thing.
The 150 is where it determines whether it's a half ton or quarter ton or 3/4 ton. Possibly.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
And then those very large, like the large window, side mirrors for, I'm assuming that's like more for trailers, but it's kind of interesting to see like, that, they have to be mounted way down on the door.
Oh, yeah. You don't have power telescoping.
Right.
Definitely no blind spot monitoring.
And the 400's a good choice. It's a big block. So, it's good to see that.
Yeah, I just love the old school look of this. Nice color combo too. All right, so that brings us to your first pick.
So this is also on AutoHunter. This expires on the 24th of January, which is a Wednesday. So in a little bit less than a week. 1969 Mach 1. This is the first year for the Mach 1. This car was originally black jade. Now it's been painted this medium light blue. I don't know if this is a stock color. It could be winter blue. I'm not really sure because it's not specified in the auction description. But I do like the idea of gold stripes on the blue. It's something that I think is a little bit counterintuitive. Thinking like gold and blue, does that match? And gold comes off well with most colors, I think. This one should be a little bit more affordable than other Mach 1s because it's a 351 2-barrel, which was the standard engine. It's not a 351 4-barrel or any of the Cobra Jets or even a 390. So it keeps the cost down for those looking for an affordable Mustang. I won't call this a muscle Mustang. Let's say it's a Mustang with image. because of the 351 two barrel. It's got rear window slats. It's got a spoiler, which is a common addition. From what I can tell, I think the spoiler was only available for the Boss Mustang and not the Mach 1 in 69, but you see a lot of Mach 1s with this. So, this is going to check the boxes for a lot of people who are into Mustangs.
Oh, yeah, I can see that happening, definitely.
Right now, I think it's at $40,000.
Yeah. We were looking at it earlier.
It's got like 5 days left, so it remains to be seen where it'll go. But right now, it's strong.
Yeah.
Strong bids.
And plenty of time left.
Yeah.
All right. And so that brings me to my second pick. So this is a 2016 Corvette Stingray with the Z51 package. So that's cool enough already because the Z51 package, you get some suspension tweaks. But on top of that, this is, despite being a 2016, it's a one owner and only has 715 miles on the odometer.
Let me guess, an automatic?
Yes, yeah. This is it's got the 8-speed auto, obviously unmodified LT1 under the hood. It's black over black, and in addition to the suspension tweaks, one thing they did for the Z51 package was they gave the LT1 the dry sump lubrication. So if you're slinging it into corners, the engine won't be starved of oil.
Do you know what it's at right now?
That's a good question. Let's see.
Because there's a lot attractive about this car.
Yeah. I mean, you got the chrome wheels, the black on black. Let's see. Let's give this a look.
Let's see every window while you're at it.
Oh boy. Yeah.
That's your wallpaper.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how lame Derek is. He's got a Jeep SUV on his wallpaper. Nothing, not like a sports car or something with nice colors, just an SUV.
Nice color. That has nice colors. Let's see. All right. So that is at 40 right now.
$40,000 in 5 days.
Yeah.
So right now, goodbye. But I'm guessing there's a reserve.
Yeah. And that's one thing for those of you out there who aren't familiar with the AutoHunter platform. The 7-day online auctions, they run on weekdays, and you can sell your car with or without a reserve. So that brings us to the end of our current episode. So I'd like to thank you, Diego, for all of your research and input, of course.
Likewise. Why don't we end the podcast looking at your SUV wallpaper?
Well, we can, but I have an ending on top of that in mind. But yes, thank you. I'd like to thank all of you out there for watching the AutoHunter video podcast. And we hope to see you next week. In the meantime, please check out AutoHunter.com and our sister site, ClassicCars.com. And just to make this official.
And don't forget to press like on YouTube so you can catch more of our podcasts.
Yes. I got to hit that again because that was our big out right there.
Yeah.
But yes, please like and subscribe. And stick around for this.